60 Plus Racing Adventures is the iRacing league for seasoned sim racers 60 years of age or older. It's a really interesting concept, a unique and fresh take on sim racing with some drivers we don't often see, and we are delighted here on RaceSpotTV to be bringing you the opening round of its 24th season. It's got legs, it's been a great championship, and it's back once again, and it all kicks off here from Summit Point. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Haynes with Justin Prince with me, Hugo Louise producing. This is our calendar for this upcoming season, and Summit Point is where it all starts. Then across into the new year, we're going to find you at round 6 at Rodskogen for our next live broadcast, and a championship decider at Watkins Glen March 1st. Justin, it's such a unique and different kind of championship. Very often you and I might be calling the iRacing action on drivers who are 12, 13, 15, something like that. This is the other end of the spectrum, but they have some great respectful racing.
Absolutely. We've seen plenty of exciting battles over the years with 60 Plus Racing Adventures, especially with the cordialness some of them have with each other and giving each other with the respect, whether it's the gentleman drivers in terms of those who have won the award over the years, or whether it's the racing in itself trying to keep it as clean as possible. At the same time, keep in mind, it's also very competitive, where you've had plenty of different drivers come up with the championship and those respective awards. In the past 5 seasons, 3 different drivers have won the championship. All of them are in the field today.
Yeah, exactly. Our powerhouse drivers, if you will. And you can see some of them here. Stefan Roskin's got 8 championships to his name, but that was when this series used to run the older spec car, the Pro Mazda, rather than the Indy Pro 2000 we're in now. Russ Addy, Ragnar Wisloff, consider them champions of the modern era in this series, if you will, and Donald Fitter and Jos van de Ven with 2 apiece. As you can see in the last 4 seasons, it has been the Ragnar Wisloff and Russ Addy show, and they now, after last season, sit 3 apiece.
Yeah, they're expected to be very quick today. Don't forget about John Morgan, season 20 champion as well. 4 straight at one point. Gentleman Driver Awards as well. He's been very quick in preparation for today's season opener. Qualifying already underway, David, to begin this season off a new build. Minimal changes to these cars, keep in mind, outside of the fixed setups for drivers on the service, but lots of excitement to get the new season going.
Yeah, exactly. Not as many changes to this Indy Pro 2000 as maybe GT3 cars have received of late, but there will be a couple of little differences in the track surface, in the off-track surface, and all of those other little changes that happen with the new iRacing deployment. Indeed, qualifying is underway for the first of 2 races, and when the drivers have 2 flying laps to make it count around this circuit, where they are lapping just over a minute, they're getting their flying laps in very early into the session, so a lot of drivers have already completed all of them. Russ Addy has as well, and he's still just out there sort of treating it as extra warm-up, as extra practice. You see he currently sits second on the grid. Ragnar Wisloff, a very dominant time there with 4.5 tenths of a second over everyone else, but things are very, very closely packed from Russ Addy through to Michael Cormick and Donald Fitterer and others. And we do have a good field for what is one of the shorter layouts they're going to get to this year. Lap times just over a minute, Justin.
And when it comes to Summit Point, several different layouts at this facility. We're at the main layout, which is 2 miles, 3.22 kilometers, and the 10 turns. But it's always, when it comes to this racetrack, remember, while it's one of the tracks many of the beginners on iRacing get to race at, it's one that also is deceptively challenging in the matter of it's very easy to get involved in incidents. The first corner through the loop, always the trouble spot when it comes to spins. The run up to the carousel, several different chances for stack ups. And of course, Paddock Bend, if you overcharge that corner, you have a chance of getting an off track, if not spinning the car out there as well. You need to be careful to be able to properly get a quick lap time around this facility, while also making sure you keep the momentum up, in particular down the front straightaway, up to the loop.
And there's something in the way they've been watering the grass on iRacing of late as well that means you don't want to be getting your tyres off the paved surface. And you can see around here, this is a great old school road racing course. Most everywhere is grass and gravel for your runoff. This final corner has what you might consider a little bit of paved runoff. The drivers can get tempted to use it there, but they might toboggan the car a little bit over the exit curb. As for everywhere else, very, very strictly enforced track limits because of that grass, because of that soil.
Yeah, you have to be very careful to not slide in the grass. It's always been considered ice. Absolutely even more icy as of late, as we've seen in the past few days on RaceSpot. 17 incident points, the incident limit in this respective series, which can catch drivers off guard. Remember with this format though, David, how it essentially works with the driver championship. You have the option to race in both events, but it's the best of this respective round of the two races on the schedule today that count towards the driver's title.
Yeah, almost like a drop within the round, not dropping your worst round. It does, interesting when you think about the championship in that way, because a driver could win race 1 and then have a very poor race 2 or the other way around, and they still take good points to their championship. Peter Hallstrom here. Ooh, is that a tribute to my friend Scott McLaughlin's livery?
It's more so maybe the 2000s version of the IndyCar scheme.
Long running and iconic livery though, isn't it? The Yellow Submarine, as I think they like to call it.
It's more like the days of Sam Hornish Jr. a bit when he ran in towards those colours.
You're an eye for details. The roll hoop says Shell V-Power Nitro, and I think that might be a slightly more recent fuel product in the lineup of that multinational.
Either way, it's yellow, and it's practicing before the end of qualifying. It's the only car left on track doing so.
Yeah, we hope. And that means Peter Hallstrom's going to be in great form when they get into this first of 2 races. As you can see, just the last half a minute of this qualifying session, and then they're going to grid up and they're going to go racing for the first race of a new season in 60 plus racing adventures. We can look at the grid, and this is a championship that keeps going strength to strength. I say it every time, more people turn 60 every day, and Ragnar Wisloff is off to a great start to try to defend his championship. But his key rival, Russ Addy, on the front row with him. Behind them, Mike McCormick and Donald Fitterer. John Morgan, always up front, defending Super 70s champion there. And he shares that with Barry Hills on the row 3 there. Got Gary Bystrom and Ulf Olsen on row 4. Row 5, Marcellus Broining and Mike Grady. It will be a 2-wide rolling start. And Randy Shoemake and Bruce Poole on the next row, Justin.
And amongst that top 12 right now, you have Johardis Jurisin starting alongside Richard Columbia in that respective row, 15th and 16th. There you go, the Pasqua and Gene Moore. Kept Nye Moore completing one of his laps. Bill Smitham starts 17th in that yellow machine in 18th. Peter Hallstrom. You have Franz Josef Strum starting alongside Joel Martin. Then Jerry Kerr and Eugene Clark, the top 22. Bob Kern starts all the way deep in the field in 23rd to not have a practice time. And Douglas Beasley, your top 24, David.
The grid continues with Robert Love, Pierre Dione, Eric Block, Earl Setzer, Gianni Rispaldo back on the grid, and JC Hay in 30th. David Bradley and Jose Carlos Campodonico all have qualifying times. Franz Brink and Richard Varley, I think, do not, but may still be eligible to grid up. What a great sight. More than 30 cars. All of our drivers aged 60 or over. And what I love about this is every time we speak to one of these drivers, they've all got a great story. For most of them, passion for racing didn't start on their 60th birthday. It's been with them all their life. And this is the continuation of that.
Absolutely, and as we've seen, plenty of them have some strong speed in this respective car. Going to be very difficult to beat Wislov and Addy, for example, with how they've competed over the past few seasons speed-wise. It's going to be a fun day to see how this season starts off, if it starts on the right foot for these respective drivers looking to battle for the championship and secure the 45 points for the get-go.
And it really is, you know, the encore to last season and previous seasons, if you will, with Ragnar Wislov and Russ Addy. You would say your two championship favourites, your two champions of the most recent seasons, starting the very first race side by side on the front row of the grid.
I think so as well. It's going to be very important to get this start right to begin the season, because you time it up wrong in that run through the loop, for example, into the braking mark. We've seen several drivers have the races end throughout the pack in the past. When it comes to Wislov, of course, though, going to have that preferred line once they get up to the starting box. Be able to get rolling for 23 laps on the docket.
Yeah, that's right. Should see it be approximately a 25-minute race then, as you've seen lap times just over 60 seconds around this place in these cars. Very nimble. You see they got wings on front and rear, they've got slick tires. They don't have oodles and oodles of horsepower like IndyCar, like Formula One. They've got about 200 and some horsepower, and that's just enough for some great racing, especially with the big pit straight we get that can lead to some slipstreaming. The pace car is in, and the field very slow, 60 k's an hour, until your pole sitter Ragnar Wislov sees the green flag or decides to get them going, and Russ Addy goes with him. They are absolutely level, heading down to turn one of a new race, of a new season, and Wislov comes across onto the racing line. It's the biggest braking zone of the lap, and that is a big move from Mike McCormick to get down the inside and up into second, Justin.
Very bold move from Mike McCormick, descended that deep on the inside. Some incidents back in the 20s. Outside of that, the starting part of the field having a clean run to begin. Wislov already looking to pull away.
Gosh, I was worried if there could have been a problem there with Mike McCormick. A very, very late move to go down the inside, but he makes it work. Russ Addy saw him coming, and they all carry on as you get into this tight and twisty section of the lap. Accidents can happen here, but it's tough to pass, and the tyres are still cold. Slicks for everyone. Bill Smitham, a new name in the championship, and he's here in 16th, right in the thick of the pack. You want to carry all of the speed you can through this section of the circuit. Don't touch the grass, and it's just a good run out of the final corner that will set up most of the overtaking today.
Absolutely. You see right now just how that line is. Some of the drivers check it up in front, might have an opportunity to be able to slipstream them if he's able to get a good enough pull. That is a strong enough pull to potentially maybe go for the pass on Richard Colby up that road, but had to back off of it.
Great example from the onboard of where the slipstream starts kicking in as you get to fourth and fifth gear. Bit of a checkup. Gene Moore looks to go around the outside, but gets a little hip and shoulder. There were some moves in front of them up on the road as well in towards turn one. Who's in front of Mike Grady? Gary Bystrom was looking for a move on Ulf Olsen. So definitely seeing lots of excitement already from this place, from Summit Point Raceway. And you can see Gene Moore here in the middle of this group, looking very minty fresh for a new season.
Yeah, he's struggling a little bit in some of the corners, but already someone's off of the grass. That's one of the drivers in the top 10. That was Marcellus Bruning from 7th position.
And Olsen and Bystrom come together up in front of this as well, so a very respectful first lap, but now things starting to kick off, and look at that, Ulf Olsen is stuck on the berm. My goodness. So 4 cars inside of your top 10, unfortunately, coming together there.
We'll say Bruning lucky that he's going in. He's getting a little bit slimy for 10th. That is Jorison, who's gained a few spots, losing a spot back. But again, the side-by-side, as he was coming out of the grass, seemed to boil over absolutely. So some of the incident points really bouncing up.
Endeavour to try to find that potentially, but this group right here sandwiched by the teammates Barry Hills and Gerhardus Jorison of the Dutch Anglo Racing or something to that effect, and it clearly explains. So there's Broining already off the road. Grass is super slippery up front. Oh, they're trying to... so Bystrom's trying to make a move on Olsen. Olsen is wary of the slow Barry Hills, who was one of the cars who went off the circuit there, and that's where it all starts, and that's the exit. That's the dust on the exit there that they are kicking up.
The more they kick up that dust, the more they kick up potential incident points as well, so they have to think big picture here. Burning, though, trying to keep within that draft to Randy Shoemake. Good defense on the outside line to keep that momentum going into the corner.
So a couple championships to play for in this season. The Outright Drivers' Championship, of course, always worth talking about. The Super 70s Championship, like for the drivers over the age of 70, and then there is a Teams Championship as well. So there are a couple of matching paint schemes out there that'll clue you on to that. And these guys do put a lot of weight onto the Teams Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to a team, that's one of the major things. You want to prove that as a group you can win and find your way to the checker flag each and every time as a group. R&R Racing, for example, that is Addy and Shoemake's respective grouping in this series. Team champions 3 of the past 4 seasons, that combination.
Great motivation too. You want to put in a good result to support your teammate. Your teammate wants to put in a good result to support you, and together you hopefully, motivate each other, lift each other up across the season. So we look at Bruce Poole, and he's in 8th. Mike Grandy in 7th. Another tribute livery there, and a group of drivers here from 7th through to 11th. Shoemake, Broining, and Jorison behind.
Yeah, and essentially very balanced on the tempo. Their pace barely within the same 10th or 2 currently for the most part. It's going to be difficult to break that lock, essentially, that builds up because you have some of the aerodynamics that come into play once you get too close to somebody in the corners. The draft, of course, big to be able to set up the pass. But then it gets to the point where if you're side by side or trying to switch back with each other or pass each other over and over again, it ends up costing you potential time down the road. Take a look. Up to the Sens, up to the grass, the 199. That was Jerry Kerr.
Yeah, looking in his inside mirror at where the driver was coming, but then with just a little bit of that grass, it will loop you around. There is no grip on it. It's really skatey, and with one of the updates to iRacing of late, it's got more texture as well. Apparently you sort of sink into it as well, and that creates an interesting effect. A desirable and realistic one, but definitely more motivation if ever to stay on the paved stuff.
Absolutely, and here's the thing, when you think about it sinking in too, there's the chance, the real world, remember, of parts flying off the race car from it digging into the ground, so you have to be absolutely careful on the off tracks throughout this entire race today. Regardless of the scenario, you do not want to touch the grass. You need to avoid it like it's hot lava.
Yeah, it's cold lava in this case, as we look at Grandy and Bruce Poole heading down towards turn number 1. A place to be brave on the brakes if ever there was one. Bruce Poole, well executed, the textbook move around here. Grandy smelt it coming, and Bruce Poole moves ahead and up into 7th. They got Barry Hills as the next car for position, about 2.5 seconds out front. You can just see him in shot at times.
That was my concern. You end up taking so long to make a move, and then have to potentially defend said move back with the draft effect if you're unable to pull away like Poole is. It will take you a fair bit of time to close it up, a fair bit of your rubber as well. Poole looks to have the pace though to break away from the pack. Speaking of packs, Russ Addy, Donnell Fitterer, John Morgan amongst those who have grouped together here, 3rd through 5th.
Yeah, it's still exciting up front. You can see Ragnar Wisloff has just a 0.4 of a second lead over McCormick, and if these two start fighting, as you see, 3rd and 5th not far behind at all. 2.5 seconds to cover our top 5 at this point in the race. That That slipstream on the pit straight, just perfect, because there's no big toe anywhere else around the circuit. But if you can be close through the middle portion of the lap and can get a good exit, then passing is absolutely possible. So it's not so powerful like it will be at Watkins Glen at the season finale, but it's also not impossible to pass. Great balance around this circuit.
That's why many years it's been a part of the rookie rotation, right? For drivers to be able to learn, figure out how to drive on road courses in the virtual world. Looks like the gap has just about closed down to 1 second, though. McCormick with the rough exit. Troubles, though, for the 55. Wow. Up on the hillside.
You worry about getting back when you're on the wrong side of that. Certainly, he's gone on a little adventure. There's a little adventure for the 199, but luckily our leaders avoid it, but it might have disturbed McCormick a little bit. He gets on the grass, he locks it up, he scoots across the gravel, and he loses a chunk of positions here as Russ Addy, Donald Fitterer, and John Morgan go through. McCormick will still have some nasty stuff on his tyres there. Maybe his focus just temporarily taken away. Trying to pull out of the way there, but that's how slippery the grass is. You can't just pull out of the way onto the grass and keep control.
I think that absolutely broke McCormick's focus. If you notice there right before he went off into the grass, had a little bit of a flick on the steering wheel and maybe just broke that focus just enough to where he botched that line and hit the grass himself. McCormick now 3 seconds back of Wisloff after being right on his doorstep, and now this will take a few laps, but Wisloff is on his own without any drafting partner.
Yeah, it's a free kick for Wisloff, isn't it? He's got almost a 2-second lead. The driver's behind, not in his slipstream anymore. They're navigating a little bit of traffic again, something we said would be a little easier around this just 1 minute lap, that they'd catch a bit more traffic. And so Addy, second, has got to lead this pack up to Ragnar Wisloff if they're going to challenge for the win. If any of these drivers are going to be able to challenge Ragnar Wisloff, kicking off his title defense in best fashion.
Right now, so far, they've just plateaued to Wisloff for the most part, maybe gained a tenth or so. But it's going to come down in part to Russ Addy's pace, but even more so, can Fitterer keep up without having to check up hard and check up the others? John Morgan, same for the rest of the respective grouping. They just chipped it down to under 1.5 seconds in that final sector, though.
I think Russ Addy knows what we know, and he's pushing on. He's trying to close that gap, but he needs just a couple more tenths. Needs to get it within 1 second as they go through the final corner. Easier said than done. It's a really committed flowing corner. We have seen drivers push just a little bit wide and almost end up in some big trouble. Quick, almost blind over the crest corner there, and this is sort of make or break right now for Russ Addy, and I sense he's giving it everything.
And notice he's a little more aggressive in the carousel compared to Wisloff, for example. Wisloff has also been starting to bobble a little bit, more stable from adding company on the rotation corner exit. That might be the costly part for the 30. Here is Addy again, his strength, another solid exit. He's chipping away again.
Yeah, the final two corners are good for him. You see the gap in the top left, and Addy just needs to get it within a second, and then the rest will take care of itself with the slipstream, but he's just desperately chipping away at it, and close to a breakthrough if he can get it. He's Mother Duck bringing all the ducklings along, though, because Fitterer, Morgan, and McCormick are being very consistent, and therefore using the slipstream and staying right with him. It's a replay there, just how slippery the grass is. You don't need to get much of it if you're Joel Martin, and it loops him around. Quick, smart Justin.
Yeah, quick snap around, too strong on the corner entry, up to the apex on speed in the first place. Just crossed the stack up. It appeared that may have been Bob Kern. Either way, more traffic potentially to think about as a result of that a little bit in the next few moments or so. Addy not doing so well this lap, though. He hit the curve to start the run on lap 1. He's been stabilizing the time since. More trouble.
for our favourite. Hallstrom runs it wide. Look at it's like he's driving on ice there. It's insane. He might be familiar with that far more than I would. And here's a move for second place. Donald Fitterer gets through in a second on Russ Addy. And now the pack are 2 seconds away from your race leader.
That'll cost him a little bit of time, but Fitterer starting to think he's got the better pace maybe compared to Russ Addy. He has had some hard checkups on the entry into turn 1 a couple times behind Addy.
Group take a couple tenths out of the leader again, though. Fitterer might be the one to lead. We've seen John Morgan over a couple seasons not be the one to try to fight too hard in a group like this and always take sort of the top 5 results.
What I'm saying is consistency.
Telling you that might be the secret for making it to 70.
I was about to say, yeah. Consistency wins championships, David, and one of the major things is keep it clean, keep it consistent. Done that right now, just letting everyone else drag him forward. Here's the tough thing. Fitterer's not as quick as Addy in his full rhythm in Sector 2 and 3, it seems. That time is growing back for Wislov.
Yeah, interesting little breakdown. Different drivers sort of consistently quick in different sectors to each other. Definitely seemed like Addy had more through the quick corners than the slow ones, and so you've got a handful of these slow corners, turn 1, and then this part of the carousel here, and then it's all quick corners from here to the end of the lap. Fitterer so close to the grass as he tries to do what Addy couldn't and catch Ragnar Wislov. It's basically 2/3 of this race done, and he is still keeping them just out of reach.
You can just tell how much aero wash there is for Russ Addy too, especially in that run out of the carousel, starting to really plow behind Fitterer. Great run though to make the pass again.
Yeah, Russ Addy was super close. He shows the nose, but he's not as brave on the brakes as Donald Fitterer was willing to be. So a good run, great positioning from Addy, but falls short on the execution at the end. That's not the quickest way through turn 1 for these guys as well, and it's not helping them catch the lead. Great battle further back though. Bruce Poole and Marcellus Breuning side by side. They can't go side by side up the hill. Breuning drops in behind and the drivers with them. Grandy, Shoemake and Gerhardus Jorison as well.
Poole has nearly broken away a couple times. However, the interval hasn't really necessarily closed up enough to get up to Berry Hills like we were talking about the chance for earlier. Just needs something to fall his way right now to be able to try and break away. Let's take a look at our replay. That was a little bit hot on the entry, and apologies over the radio from that.
Yeah, Earl Setzer in the white and black car, and I think Eric Block in the sort of Lotus or Wolf inspired livery in that one. So the two drivers come together and end up in the barrier of the final corner. Here's Breuning shaping for a look down the inside of turn 1, and he's not going to get any overlap. So going to struggle to take that one away.
Yeah, keep in mind though, you see the interval, the lap traffic, we talked about its potential impact. Wislov lost more than a second from the traffic you see on the pylon. So that has closed up as well, down to 6/10. Still keep an eye on Breuning, who still wants to go, but the traffic is plain disastrous for some of these drivers.
Bruce Poole's the highest running Canadian at the moment. Justin, there's not many Australians in this race, I'll be honest with you. So great fight there, 5-way battle, but very respectful and clean stuff in that battle. This is our leaders. Ragnar Wislov has Donald Fitterer in his slipstream, way more speed down the pit straight as they approach the braking zone for turn 1. There's Russ Addy and John Morgan with them. Mike McCormick has dropped. Remember how aggressive and he was in that opening lap, getting up into second place, but now he's dropped from the lead pack. Nothing between Wislov and Fitterer, with still plenty of laps to go. Lots of opportunities for that slipstream and for the pass into turn 1.
Fitterer's car has the message that I think he's thinking about. Go faster. 6 to go this time, and it so far has been for Wisloff. He has struggled to get around some of the traffic. David Bradley, the next one up, and there's the lift. Here comes Fitterer.
Yeah, most of the drivers very, very alert, very respectful as well. So good intentions there to say, I'll let these leaders fight it out. What a great battle they are having. Fitterer on Wisloff, but Addy on Fitterer could be the move. Keep it clean, guys. A couple of lane changes on the way down towards turn 1, and they collide. First and second, Wisloff and Fitterer. Russ Addy goes through into the lead of the race.
I could see that coming. Fitterer definitely sent it to the inside. We've seen that move from that respective team before, remember, when it came to McCormick. But Wisloff in the middle of the racetrack did not really leave any space on either side of him to make the pass, and it takes both of them out.
It almost reminds me of Melbourne Grand Prix 2002 or something. That sort of Ralph Schumacher airborne climbing over the car in front, and there's a couple of moves, and, well, I mean, will you forgive Fitterer for needing to look in two places at once? He was trying to stick the move on the leader. He needed to be aware of what Russ Addy was doing behind him, and both of them moving around on him a little bit as well. Everyone wanted a piece of that action.
And as a result, we talked about John Morgan. Maybe if he was being patient, get to second. Well, he's now in second. And here's the thing, he's a little bit quicker than Russ Addy in this sector. Big lockup for Addy.
That'll put a lot of heat into your tyres. Circuit's not too hot, 24 Celsius, so you don't need to worry too much about overheating the tyres across a race length, but still, they have their limits, like any tyre. And I wonder if Addy picked up any damage at all as he tried to work his way through that turn 1 collision.
He does have scrapes on the wing, can say that, but not really impact in terms of its shape of said wings. Morgan, though, just trying to find a way to pop that 0.4 of a second bubble that seems to be forming for a lot of these packs today.
Well, for the opening race of the season, it looks like it's going to come down to a two-way fight. Russ Addy and John Morgan do have quite a bit of traffic in front of them as well for the closing laps.
Yeah, Morgan needs to be another 10th or so closer at this point to be able to realistically make a send down the front straightaway. He's been really good on the brakes, though, in that section. That's his strength. If he can get the pull here, will this go his direction is the major thing. He needs to be within the 0.3 or so by the exit time they get the paddock bend.
Yeah, it's all good to be really quick through this section here, but you've got to be close and quick through the final 2 corners. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance down the pit straight.
Oh, the car coming out of the grass might cause a little bit of checkups. That's Bill Smitham having to come out of the grass. Russ Addy built a buffer from it.
Yeah, he sure did. Both of them got to be careful here, and Russ Addy taking the opportunities to get through the traffic. John Morgan typically not as aggressive with it. Of course, second place overall for him would be a great result in the Super 70s Championship. You could consider it a win. It absolutely would be in that category. So I don't know how motivated he is to fight for that outright win. We've spoken with John a couple times on previous broadcasts, and he always seems just as thrilled with a top 3 as anything else. Grandy and Poole, both of them moving about on the road here as they battle over 6th.
A chance for Poole here. Remember, we've seen the side-by-side in this pack a couple times. Poole wanting to be in front of Grandy again. Coming up to 2 laps to go, we've seen how quick Poole is once you get him into a straight line to make the sends and gets the clean air. Cars
dancing around a little bit more on the rear tyres. They do have a limit to their life, and it tends to be 5 laps to go in the race. There's Breuning again, and he's side by side with Barry Hills in the battle over 4th place. So he was, as they have to negotiate some traffic. That is Hills just in front of him in the 66.
This traffic is absolutely nightmarish right now in some of these circumstances for drivers. Breuning, though, having some clean space finally. Not going to be able to send it up Wagon Bend, no.
Well, you're always tempted. It's not really a big braking zone in cars like these, is it? They've got a lot of cornering speed and not a lot of horsepower, so a few places that would be a braking zone in a stock car are not in something like this mid-level single-seater. Leaders are about to start the final lap of the race. Russ Addy's got a 2.5 seconds on John Morgan. Morgan's got to think about Mike McCormick, who's gotten into his slipstream. And then it's this group of drivers, Barry Hills, Marcellus Breuning, and Grandy and Poole not too far behind them as well. Breuning, is he close enough to have a go? He'd be very tempted. He is very tempted. He's showing the nose. He's a car back, and he's not going to get enough overlap before turn 1. And unless he does something crazy, that's your last opportunity on the lap, Justin.
Yeah, way too far back right now, Breuning, unless he gets very brave, maybe into If Gardner turn. He's been really good on the exit, but he just seems to plateau about here.
Over the crest, have a dig? No, you can't. You're always tempted to, though. Always tempted. Bit of traffic off circuit for this group. But out in front, Russ Addy still holds a second. They collided in front of him. He went through into the race lead, and he's going to kick off his new season in perfect form. Race 1 winner from Summit Point is Russ Addy.
Very well done for Addy. Maintained his patience, had to work to get up towards the leaders. Then the leaders, of course, had their own troubles once things started to pick up pressure-wise. Again, kept his cool, avoided the contact, led the rest of the way to hold on over John Morgan through the traffic storm.
17 cars on the lead lap, and these are some of the last ones that are going to get around, but they're fighting just as fiercely. Bob Kern and Pierre Zione. Zione up 10 positions from where he started in this race, 26 up into 16th. I'm not sure he's going to add one more to that unless we see big dramas for Bob Kern. But you know what? They might almost be side by side as we get to the line. Kern can hold on from Dione. JC Hay, the last car on the lead lap.
The tough thing when it comes to Kern, remember the contact. He had tried to defend there with the wing damage. Still held on, though, for a solid top 15 despite the contact early.
Let's have a look then at our results from the opening round of the season. Russ Addy comes away with the win after contact for the defending champion. John Morgan sits in second with McCormick, Barry Hills, Breuning, Grandy, Poole, Shoemaker, Yorison, and Remigio De Pasqua as our top 10. We've had a return of a bunch of those Italian drivers, De Pasqua, Rispaldo, etc. And a good start for Remigio De Pasqua. Franz Josef Stum, Richard Coulomb, Gene Moore, Peter Hallstrom, Bob Kern, Pierre Zione, JC Hay, and Richard Varley as the last car on the lead lap. Then Robert Love and France Brink went one down. As we said, more easily done here than, say, the Nordschleife, where we raced last season. David Bradley, Ragnar Wisloff, and Donald Fitterer, those two drivers colliding while battling for the lead. And there comes Rispaldo, Ulf Olsen, Douglas Beasley, Eugene Clark, Bill Smitham, Jose Carlos Compatanico, and Jerry Kerr. A couple more drivers, Eric Block, Joel Martin, Earl Setzer, and Gary Bystrom. We saw collisions from those. Justin, one of my favourite parts of this championship is hearing from our drivers, because they do have, I guess, a different sim racing story than you're going to get watching the World Championship Series. So let's go straight to our race winner.
Yeah.
Russ Addy, you're having a great chat in the green room. We've pulled you away from it to congratulate you on kicking off the new season with a win.
Hey, David. As I say, televise everyone. I'm right there.
I'm not sure you can blame us for what happened in front of you at turn one, though. Tell us about your perspective.
Oh, I mean, Donald was on a charge. He was going way quick, and I was on the left going to do the over-under maneuver, and it looks like he just missed his braking point. Probably took some air off his front end, and that's all it takes.
It's a new season for 60-plus racing adventures, but it's also a new season for the iRacing build cycle. They change a lot of things. They try not to break a lot of things, but what's, if anything, different for this car this season? Have they tweaked anything that's noticeable from the driving perspective?
No, the car feels about the same. I think the big thing they did, which hopefully works, is they split them by hour. So instead of having the lower class car every hour, you have an hour between. So hopefully we'll get more people running this car.
In the official iRaces there?
Yeah, exactly. The official one. So hopefully it'll become more popular. I mean, obviously you see how many guys we've got here. It's really popular with us.
Yeah, absolutely. 30 and some drivers around what's only a minute lap. You guys had to deal with more traffic than maybe we're going to see it at other venues in the season.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the guys try their hardest, but, most of them are racing, and, it's hard to just disappear. So, if you're coming around to lap someone, you have to, I'll say, give a little and hope for the best.
Well, congratulations. You got one more race tonight, and hopefully we'll see you run well in that one as well.
We'll see. I'll give it my best, and thanks for televising.
Our pleasure. See you, Russ.
See you, David.
Justin, I reckon, because we got a couple standing by, I can get you our reigning Super 70s champion and second place finisher, John Morgan.
Yes, indeed, John Morgan. You stayed patient throughout that entire run. Let the pack drive you up to the race lead, and then chaos reigned. You were up to second. What was your viewpoint by that point once you saw the fireworks go off for the lead?
Well, I always try to leave a little space down in there to one because of that. I saw Donald start to move to, try to get by Ragnar. So I just backed out just enough to sort of miss it and follow Russ around the accident. So, but yeah, this is a place that you just got to be patient.
Seemed traffic management also a big part of today. How difficult was it to try and maintain the pace with Addy while also making sure the common courtesy with the traffic was maintained?
Yeah, it was. The funny thing is, there wasn't as much traffic as I thought there would be with a short track like this and whatever it was, 33 guys on the grid. But it wasn't bad. There, it also depends on where you catch them. But if you catch them back there in the twisties, it can hold you up. But it holds everybody up. So it did allow Mike to close up a little bit at the end, Mike McCormick. But yeah, it's traffic's always sort of a fun added element to Summit Point.
Of course, one of the major talking points when it comes to you at one point 4 straight Gentleman Driver Awards in the seasons prior to the most recent one, always known for common courtesy. Basically, what's that excitement level of the second? David thought he would be jumping for joy for second.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I mean, I felt I had I had top 5 pace, and when the race got away, Barry made a mistake and left a gap behind me, so it made it a lot easier to just sort of sit there and be patient at the back of that lead pack. If Barry had been on my tail, it might have been more difficult, but we had a gap behind us, so it really made playing the patience game work today.
Well, thank you very much for your time, John. We'll let you get ready for the second race of the day.
Thanks, guys.
John Morgan coming away second overall today. You mentioned Mike McCormick did get within his draft for a moment. Then a bit more traffic, David, to deal with. He still finished third.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Mike. A little bit of a yo-yo for you. Big move early on in that race on the very, very first lap, and then fall away from you a little bit. You come back for third.
Yeah, the car that spun in front of me, I wasn't sure which way he was going to go, and then I lost my focus a little bit and got off track. Not one of my better races.
Certainly the grass and the bits that aren't the paved surface seem extra slippery than years gone by.
Yeah, in this setup we have pushes. We had another setup which I wish we'd run, but other people like this one better, so you know how that goes. Everybody has a different driving style.
Yeah, certainly. How then have you found Summit Point? You have a long pit straight, but the rest of it seems pretty twisty, and you've got kind of that one real passing opportunity.
I've always liked the track. I raced a lot in the Skippy and the 2K, series they had. So I've always liked it. It's a fun track.
Well, third to kick off the evening, you definitely showed some pace and some flair in the first race. Do you think you can put it all together, maybe with a bit of luck in race 2?
Well, I've run good here all week, so who knows? There's a lot of fast people, so a lot of it's just how it plays out. We'll see.
There's always some luck in racing, and you've just got to be prepared. So best of luck in race 2, and go well.
Okay, thank you all a lot. Thanks for everything y'all do. Enjoy the broadcast.
Thanks, Mike. Well, Justin, it's always interesting to hear from our 60-plus Racing Adventures drivers. As I say, they've got their own personality and view on sim racing that maybe the more impatient young whippersnappers that seem to dominate the sim racing landscape don't have. But we get to do it all again in a little bit. Race 2 is about 10 minutes away.
Yes, indeed. A lot of these drivers get the chance to reset, try and hope for a better run. Wislov absolutely amongst those who will be looking for a better break after what happened with the contact with Fitterer. Now it's about trying to execute one more time for another 23-plus laps.
We'll take a break here on RaceSpotTV, and when we come back, it's qualifying and race 2 of this opening round of a new season of 60-plus Racing Adventures from Summit Point. Stick with us. There's one more race to play out for the opening round of this new season of 60 plus racing adventures from Summit Point. But before we can go racing, it's qualifying. We'll set our grid, and a big grid it has been. David Haynes here on RaceSpot with Justin Prince, Hugo Luis producing. Well, Justin, what are you expecting out of this qualifying session? Because it's just 2 flying laps, and we did see most everyone get at least 1 lap in the first race.
Well, the expectations are pretty simple. If you perform well in the first race, the expectation should be qualifying well in the second, so to speak. Here's the difficult thing when it comes to that respective balance when you consider things, though. Of course, when you have to do a qualifying run again, you may have a mistake you didn't have the previous time. You may be a little bit slower in turn because of that. You might not be able to nail the line exactly the same way as you may have for the pole time earlier or for a top 10 time earlier. So we're going to see some mixtures and differences amongst the qualifying grid. Maybe even see a couple drivers from the mid-pack in qualifying previously jump up to the top of the pylon this time.
Drivers now getting around to complete some of their first flying laps, and we'll have an indication of form right now as John Morgan pips Mike McCormick with just 2 times in yet. A lot to still play out with the first run and then the second run for everyone. Here is Joel Martin, one of the series organisers as well, I do believe there, so we'll only say good things about him, Justin. And he's on track right now.
Drivers currently in the midst of their first lap. In fact, currently believe, actually their second, had an invalidated first time. Already the tempo being set, though, again by Wislov, 1:04.8 for the pole time so far.
Yeah, not just the quickest, but quickest by a little bit. Everyone's got one opportunity to respond to that. You're right, as we ride on board with Joel Martin. This is his second qualifying lap attempt. He's got 1 corner left. It's a quick one in 4th gear. And of course it leads onto this pit straight, high speeds. Looking for the timing tower at the cafe there. And put Joel Martin 15th. But it doesn't look like McCormick or others able to take that pole away from Ragnar Wislov. Donald Fitterer's time comes in just 400ths short of pole. It looks like he might start front row. Gary Bystrom has done his 2 laps and they've put him 7th place.
A decent qualifying run for Bystrom. Randy Shoemake amongst the end of the top 10 as well. Most of the drivers qualify top 10. I am seeing some improvement from the last race for Olsen in particular so far in this race. For the qualifying top 5 in the session. Curious if the 70 car can do some things as well.
Certainly qualifying inside of the top 10 looks pretty important if you're going to go with the pack early and therefore have that slipstream on the pit straight, the ability to run with the leaders and to attack and maybe move forward. Curtis Yorison, 11th at the moment. He is on a flying lap that could count here, could move himself forward from 11th. And yeah, he will, up into 7th there. So good improvement from Yorison, who started his runs a little later than most. Randy Shoemake has done his 2, but David Bradley is on his 2nd lap. So 23rd at the moment for Bradley, but a chance, no doubt, to improve. And from where he sits, about half a second would leap him a chunk of positions.
Same thing for Owen Anderson, who just crashed, I think, right now in his time. He didn't race in the previous one, believe. If not, was towards the back of the running order. So most of the drivers have already completed their qualifying session. About 30 entrants, but to get around the racetrack for the second race in about 4 minutes' time. You can see Shoemake just trying to get those lines together, David, to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, doesn't lose the touch of the pack this race. Not the race I think some people may expect to start the year. Rossetti, meanwhile, remember his weakness was this first sector to start off and for just about the entire first one.
Track limits at the exit at the top of the hill there, always a very easy mistake to make as you try to carry speed through a quick and partially off-cambered corner. So we also saw Randy Shoemake testing the limits there. Very, very lethal if you go out too wide there in the race, but you don't want to be leaving so much time on the table in that part.
Drivers getting the final commands over the radio from Joel Martin, in fact, right now. It seems 3 drivers not setting qualifying times. Jerry Kerr, Robert Love, who we've seen in the later stages of traffic, and Douglas Beasley, who was involved in incidents earlier on in that respective race, losing him time.
3 drivers at the moment without a qualifying time. Robert Love is one of them. Went out in qualifying, wasn't able to set a lap. Douglas Beasley, it looks, didn't go out, and Jerry Kerr went out but didn't complete any laps. But it sees the rest of the fields, all with qualifying times 27 of 30. Whenever you have these limited qualifying sessions, just 2 laps allowed, I do note that you got to have a little more caution in trying to make sure you get a clean lap, rather than if it was sort of a 20-minute all-out session where drivers could just lap and lap and lap and lap, and probably take it a little more aggressively.
That's a solid point, because we see that aggression level lead to potential of a banker time in some circumstances. Then some drivers at the higher levels may elect to pull it back in and try again to go for the full charge lap. But essentially, you have to be able to make it mistake-free for it to count. You crash, for example, during that second lap, it can cost you a fair bit of time, or in the first circumstance, the first lap might cost you that extra prep on the warm-up coming into that respective lap. So you need to be able to keep the confidence up if you're going to do well for the race.
So let's start looking at our starting grid then. Ragnar Wisloff, back-to-back poles for the defending champion. But race 1 didn't go cleanly for him. He's definitely one of the drivers looking for redemption in this 2-race format where you carry through your best result. He can still make something happen from this round in race 2. He's sharing that front row with Donald Fitterer. Mike McCormick moved from sort of 3rd or 4th up into 2nd in race number 1, and he starts on that 2nd row again. There's Russ Addy, the race 1 winner, in 4th. Olsen, like you mentioned, Justin, in 5th position, a good qualifying for him on a row that he shares with John Morgan. You can definitely tell Gerhard Sjörason and Barry Hills are teammates from this view, and they're going to be starting lined up there. But Gary Bystrom and Mike Grandy are their row mates, and Randy Shoemake and Remigio de Pasqua through to 12th place.
Franz Josef Strom starting in 13th position, right behind him in the lineup here tonight. You have Eugene Clark also going to be behind that respective top 12. 7/10 the difference between the pole and the top 12 for reference. Also amongst the 13th and 14th spots mentioned Strom and Clark. Then you have Bob Kern and Marcellus Bruning. Then Peter Hallstrom starts alongside Richard Valley, 1.4 seconds off the pole time. David Bradley, meanwhile, starts in 19th position in car 72 with Joel Martin, the boss man, in 20th. Bruce Puel, very much further back compared to his qualifying the first race. Remember, he was a top 10 contender, this time 21st. Paul Setzer will start in front of Bill Smitham and Gene Moore, the top 24.
Here's the rest of our qualified field: Pierre Dione, Gianni Rispaldo, and Oyvind Anderson. We mentioned the 3 drivers who we might see: Robert Love, Douglas Beasley, Jerry Kerr. No qualifying time from them though. Pace car starts to pull away, and the field will get the full formation lap. Inside of this sort of top 3 rows, I think the most pressure has got to be on our drivers that crashed out of race 1. So Fitterer and Wisloff, wasn't it? They now start on the front row together.
Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on, absolutely, especially with how aggressive we've seen the send from Fitterer, as well as mentioned, thoughts of John Morgan missing the braking mark potentially in that circumstance with the Aero. So at this point, they know what happened the first race. If you are in that situation now, you want to try to avoid that, of course, obviously in this one, but also think of different ways in turn. How do I pass Wisloff without having to dive it towards the inside and hope you don't hit the tire?
Were the conditions similar to race 1? So clear skies, morning time, and 24 Celsius on the track. Should be relatively grippy, relatively predictable. You ever been to West Virginia?
No, I believe you have. Have you?
I've been through. I don't want to say, like, if you never got out of the car and you just drove through, did you, like, I was physically there, but I can't say I lapped up the culture, cuisine, and lifestyle.
Did you take the country roads or the highways?
I believe it was an interstate, but they are very famous for their country roads.
Yes, they like to take you home. Just like we're about to take home this round.
I did see the Blue Ridge Mountains and Shenandoah River, though, so that's great. There's a course here called the Shenandoah course as well, so really not that far from Washington, D.C., though, in this corner of West Virginia, Summit Point. The pace car in Ragnar Wisloff has form in starting these races in the same position as he was race number 1, but he floors it a little earlier. So Fitterer can't immediately go with him, but they're side by side behind that. McCormick and Addy. McCormick's got the inside, Addy's got the racing line. So who will be third in that group? Addy looks like he might just hold on. John Morgan looking to slot in that group. It's Gary Bystrom around the outside, trying to make a little bit of moves. Everyone in front of him trying to be super, super cautious and sensible. And Bystrom will go up the hill in front of Kehardis Yorison, and the field goes single file without too much drama up front.
Yeah, much cleaner this start for the entire field after the incidents in the 20s on the previous start. But this time around, everyone timed it up well. Just to say that, there goes Marcellus Burning. Another issue and has to floor it off the track. Bad spot to get stuck at.
That was real time. Everyone making sure they didn't plow into a stationary car. These drivers are a lot more sensible than you might see in other championships. Bill Smithham's also gone around, and Gene Moore's had to dodge him. So a couple of drivers really struggling on the cold tyres initially here, especially from the middle of the field. But you can see John Morgan in slipstream of Mike McCormick, number 99, gives him a lot of space in towards turn 1, not looking to submarine underneath the car in front. So Ragnar Wisloff converted his pole position into the race win. It's on Fitterer into second. The movement's been behind them, where Russ Addy went around the outside to get third place.
So far, so patient right now for these drivers. By the way, those opening incidents, 4 drivers mandatory repairs in the opening lap alone. Might have jinxed it there for the clean start. Regardless, though, the front runners, similar to what we've seen last time. John Morgan trying to let the train carry him forward with Ross Addy leading the train. This time it's McCormick behind, with Fitterer up with the race leader instead.
Drivers settling into their rhythm, tyres coming into pressure. McCormick just with a tiny kiss of the grass as he came through the final corner. Not something you want to do. Here's Olsen under pressure from Bystrom, and Olsen goes right back to the racing line, offers up the inside to Gary Bystrom. Breaks just a little earlier and can't seal the deal. It's teammates line astern behind in Yorison and Hills.
Yeah, Olsen really well done for the outside of the braking mark. Just got the right arc to slam the door shut in a more comfortable way. Looking like he's also in a more solid rhythm with how things are playing out compared to Bystrom in some of the corners. Bystrom also, though, in this sector, just a little deeper on the brakes to try and maintain the gap.
Olsen had just a tiny touch of the grass that might have put him off his preferred racing line as he went into the carousel section as well, but he's gathered it up well after that. Any team orders between Hills and Jorrison? There's not going to need to be, as Jorrison goes off the circuit. You can end up in don't reverse too far. You can fall off the world there.
You know, we went to Grandma's house there off into the midst of the trees. Just a narrow clip of the grass, right? With just over the curbing. And what did we talk about? It's even more about ice this time. Yep, just hit it with the left rear.
Tiniest tap necessary, and he's gone up and over one of the grass berms. It just washes out wide. Oh, that's a ride and a half.
Really lucky to be able to turn it from going all the way into the forest. You don't want to get lost in the midst of the forest.
No, there's wild things out there. This is the race lead. Ragnar Wisloff converted that pole position, but the pressure is on him from Donald Fitterer in slipstream. More speed. He's got 5 extra kilometers an hour as they get towards the end of the straight. So just walking down that gap, down most of the pit straight, just cutting out a car length every second or so.
Yeah, Fitterer's not going to back down here with Wisloff right in the midst of his positions here. Going to be a little patient per se, since there's a lot of time to work with. But if the opportunity opens up, don't be surprised if Fitterer tries to send it up the inside yet again. The question is, how does Wisloff in turn defend this race? We've seen his measure was force them to have to check up. We've seen the results of that with the tire contact. Don't know if that will happen this time. They are starting to walk away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, and you might have to mind your manners a little bit in this situation, because if you're Fitterer and you are very aggressive in getting to the lead, well, I'm not sure you're going to pull away. Wisloff will then be, shoe on the other foot in your slipstream, looking to take it back. So in that way, there's some incentive to just mind your manners until a little later in the race, because it will be a two-way fight, and the guy can absolutely fight back with the strength of that slipstream. It was relatively calm for the next 3 drivers, but you did notice Olsen leading the third pack of cars across the road as he tried to break the toe from Bystrom and Hills and Shoemake. So everyone inside of your top 10 still in one of these battle packs at the moment.
All staying close, but for the most part starting to splinter a little bit based on the respective speed gaps for the most part. These drivers 105 flat, setting personal best currently. But the tire temps start to reach towards their peak. Keep in mind, these cars have the right driver. Can't get faster as the tires wear off here. And that's the challenging skill level of trying to make sure you have that pace as the tires fall off to be able to try and break away, like they are the 2.2, 2.3 seconds. Now 2/10 gained over Addy. Or should I say Addy just gained 2/10 on them?
Yeah, quick laps from that second pack. Fastest lap of the race right now. Looks like it's going to belong to Mike McCormick. He was motoring along in that group. He's obviously picked up a good slipstream as well, and it's the only lap time so far in this race in the 1-minute 4s. I think fastest of last race was 4.6, something like that. So very competitive, and of course conditions almost identical race 1 to race 2 as well, so it is fair to make that comparison. Sometimes it wouldn't be if you had 2 races and the sun was setting on the second one and the track was cooling off. Of course you can see different times from different conditions.
You see just the differences in sectors right now, as well as some of the aero wash really kicking up, in my opinion. Already 6/10 the drop back. Now, Federer, here's a look back at that set group we're talking about. And the time just seems to be fluctuating from chip away to lose. Chip away to lose. McCormick's saying, you know what? Let's try and go.
Russ Addy was sort of keeping an eye on that one, thinking, is he going for it? Is he going for it? And once McCormick was properly committed to it on the brakes, I think Russ Addy looked to let that one go and try to stay with this group, see if McCormick can pull him up to the leaders. There was about 2 seconds difference immediately off the road, grass offering no grip. And that car ends up in the wall from hero to zero in a couple corners for Mike McCormick.
Yeah, just didn't have the right line. Just went off the track, basically, before the arc heading through the chute.
My, oh my, that went from in control to in the wall really, really quick. And McCormick, was he distracted by something else again? It's cost him, and he's not taking anyone else with him. This is that third group here. Olsen again weaving the pack down the pit straight, but it is not discouraging Gary Bystrom or Barry Hills or Randy Shoemaker as they still stay locked in with him. Olsen caught some of the cars ahead with the dramas on that lap just then. We'll take another look at what happened for McCormick. He's just opened up the entry too much. Wow, the cameraman will need to change.
Definitely needed to duck there, the camera operator, a little bit. In all seriousness, though, as soon as he hit the grass, it just carried him at near full speed of what he was running into the tire barrier. McCormick, of course, will have the second to bank on for the points, but going to be disappointed that he couldn't make it a victory this time.
Yeah, he was looking really racy in that one. Shoemake on Barry Hills down and towards turn one. Shoemake not willing to break deep enough, but as he tricked Hills into going a little bit too deep, I think Hills was a millimeter away from catching that grass himself.
Oh my, big check up there. Shoemake, I think that's what part of the battle might come up to be here. Hills is struggling in that run up to the chute coming through the wagon bend. That nearly sheared off Shoemake's wheel, or rather, his entire front wing.
They got close. Shoemake might want to be a little more aggressive on the brakes in towards turn one if he gets another opportunity. He's being polite. Didn't net him any rewards. This lap just gone. Looks precise to the apex in the final corner, and he's got a lot of speed. Almost can't defend against that kind of speed, but Hills gets across to the inside. Shoemake's got his nose in front as they get to the brakes and comes across to take the spot.
Yeah, you can just see it just with Hills much earlier in the brakes in terms of his confidence levels compared to Shoemake. Now Shoemake has to be able to go into raw pace mode. Olsen and Bystrom are fighting up the road. He might have a good chance here to get as high now as a top 5. Or that.
Well, one of the places I thought you might be able to outbrake doesn't happen all that often, but Barry Hills has done it. The kink before the braking zone there makes it tough to get alongside, makes it tough to do that move cleanly. But they've given each other just enough space for Hills to return serve and take that position right back from Randy Shoemake. But then we get back into Randy Shoemake territory. He's looked so good through this final corner and onto the pit straight.
I think Shoemake thought he let him go the first time. Maybe. He seemed to go pip over the radio, and now Hills is saying, you can have it. In fact, saying, good luck, Randy, on the radio on that pass. Watch him send it again and say, thank you again.
Yeah, we have not seen many moves at all at that corner there, so it does take a lot of bravery, kind of blind on the way in as well as you drop down, take the apex, but you can tell Hills is more confident with that right-hander.
Yeah, definitely is. Might be thinking Shoemake might be able to pull him along, work the air a little bit, maybe close up to get to Olsen and Bystrom. Now at this point, after they battled and lost in air 2 seconds, yeah, Shoemake, you can see it just there though. Better through the braking, a little bit deeper in the corners, into the grass nearly.
Yeah, definitely gave it a kiss, drew up a couple blades. This is Bystrom and Olsen. Olsen in front, looking to defend the inside. Force Bystrom around the outside if he can.
Bitterer blew up! The smoke you just seen around the track, now Fitterer blew it up!
The engine severely damaged for the man who was in second place, trying to challenge Ragnar Wisloff for the lead, and he is just sending smoke signals everywhere. Here comes Russ Addy. Here comes John Morgan, and the traffic's trying to get past. The drivers are trying to get past. Addy will look to go round the outside of the carousel if he can, such is the damage. We don't see that all that often, sequential gearbox in these cars, so I don't know precisely how he's done that unless he's been way too eager on the downshifts.
Yeah, it's like as soon as it went up into the gear, I've noticed, it just went puff.
It was way before the braking zone. Not a problem we normally see on these cars.
Yeah, that is extremely unexpected. And now that's really checked up the pack because of all that.
Yeah, the lapped car of... was it more? Yeah, it was. And then Russ Addy and the others took a while to get around him. So they couldn't immediately send it on him. So it's given Ragnar Wisloff a big lead, but it's pushed Addy, Morgan, Olsen and Bystrom all together. Barry Hills is back ahead of Randy Shoemake, so these two are going at it of late.
And this is where Gene Moore also cycled as well to add on top of that layer. Hills is not backing down like it seemed initially signaled, where it's like, you have the run, go ahead, take it. It's like the second he sees any slow up for Shoemake, Hills is saying, okay, that's my signal to take it back. Here they go again.
Oh, here goes Bystrom and Olsen, and this time Bystrom has got to the inside line for turn number 1. The best overtaking opportunity, your best car positioning, but Olsen will swoop it around the outside, defending that position very well.
Keep in mind, they have to play smart here with this fight. They're now within range of Addy and Morgan for the first time since the start. So if Bystrom does feel the confidence to be able to make a move, he needs to do it quick. If Olsen feels like he's got the pace, he has to be able to get within the 1 second. He's within the 1 second in the middle of the apexes now.
Yeah, the traffic and the blown motor really helps the drivers in 4th and 5th catch these podium positions. If they battle, they'll lose touch with it. Again, Addy and Morgan both consistent and quick at the moment. Not quick enough to take anything out of the race leader, Ragnar Wisloff.
Yeah, at this point, they need a lot of luck to get up to Wisloff. 8 seconds, you're not making that up in 8 laps unless he breaks the front wing or traffic gets that significant for only him. Look at John Morgan, though. Showing again a good run over Russ Addy, but nowhere to take the run.
No, not wise to try to pass here. He stays in touch. Morgan's looking like he's got this all figured out, though. He's all over the back of Addy through these parts of the circuit.
Yeah, that's been one of the closest marks through the corner. He's actually been near to the rear wing. So now it's just a matter of executing right. The problem is, he is starting to lose that ground again. Back to that aero bubble with the aero push. and now just too far back to take advantage. Here is the thing. Wislam did lose 1 second with the traffic. There is a shot there. Here comes the side-by-side. Bystrom did find a way around Olsen, and now might be able to try and focus or not.
Olsen wanted it back, but Bystrom will just hold on with the better drive around the outside of turn number 1. Not quite sure how Bystrom got in front where he did, but he looks to be through on that one and able to defend it.
These two, though, just not getting enough time picked up. They're not going to get 1 second a lap unless there's the holdups right now. Even then, when you think about it, remember they did how they did in the last race. The first race would still be the better scoring point for the championship in itself, but you never know what can happen, right?
Yeah, the deeper we get into this race, the more traffic the leaders are likely to catch. There is a battling group not far ahead of second and third of Gianni Rispaldo and Jerry Kerr are battling for 23rd. Well, there's a bit of overlap here now. Ragnar Wislof's gotten past those cars that second and third still need to. Morgan is looking just a little quicker as that runs out a little bit wide. Once you're on the grass, you are heading for an excursion. Joel Martin. And another replay.
It's just happening. Oi! Really close to shearing off her front wing there on the slide.
Great thing about this championship, of course, is it's not just all about the leaders and the winners. All through the field, there's a lot of drivers enjoying their racing and having some great battles, like Kernpool and Clark over 9th, 10th and 11th here.
Great recovery for Bruce Poole from a terrible qualifying run. One of your biggest movers by far. You can just see right there. Good run out of the corner to set up Bob Kern. Kern going defensive.
So Poole looking to outbrake around the outside and towards turn 1. He's got a full car length as they go in, but you got to be so careful of that grass and that dust and the marbles if you get too wide, and he just keeps it within safe bounds.
Very well done on the move. Bruce Poole about where he was in the last race. A great recovery drive from a poor qualifying run tonight in race 2.
Had it a little out wide in the left-hander, but able to get to the short run around the carousel, and then it's about picking up and carrying the speed through the quick ones. Over the little hill, under the bridge, towards the final corner. Another corner where you sit so low in these cars, it's tough to see the exit over the grass berm on the inside of the corner until you're already committed and getting around there. More side by side between your second and third place runners, Addy and Morgan. Morgan, renowned for the patience, but it might just wear thin when he's already banked a second place and there's only a handful of laps left in this second race.
Remember, Morgan has to know that Addy has been backing up that braking zone a fair bit earlier compared to what he feels more comfortable in. So that might be his door to take the pass if he gets a chance to. Tough part, the traffic play nice. The traffic plays nice right there, able to keep it full pace past David Bradley.
Half a car width away from the exit through the final one for John Morgan. Russ Addy's moving around a little bit, either trying to break the toe or trying to make sure that Robert Love sees him coming. Here goes Shoemake and Hills side by side. Shoemake's the inside. Hills is not going to give it up, and he looks to go around the outside, and sometimes you can really get great drive the way the corner opens up and keeps turning past the apex, but it's not going to happen this time.
Just didn't seem comfortable in that apex with the squeeze. Now Barry Hills Gonna have to do it again, as we've seen him do every single chance he gets on Shoemake here. He does not want to give up sixth here.
Second gear's the corner and the drive where you've got to be a bit more careful opening the throttle. Through the quick corners, you've got plenty of downforce, so you can just open up the power. Not in second gear, you can't. So, fourth through the final corner again, and it's that speed that you also carry onto the pit straight combined with its length that makes the slipstream so powerful. Almost from the start, you feel the slipstream, and it just gets more and more powerful as you accelerate towards the top of sixth gear.
You see that with Hills and that comfortability coming through second again. Down to the final couple laps of this race. It's been one of the tricky spots for Hills. You just see trying to roll at the fourth gear. Again, nearly air launches up to the rumble strip.
It's that right-hander in fifth gear there that Barry Hills just hooks with a little more conviction than Shoemake can. But we've seen what'll happen if you get too hot in there and can't stop it before the left-hander. Go out wide and you will lose a lot of time tippy-toeing on the slippery grass. Ragnar Wisloff, the defending champion, not the race one that he needed to kick off his championship, but in race 2 he started the final lap in the lead, almost 10 seconds. The traffic that he had to work earlier, second and third, now have to. But this is Morgan's time looking around the outside of one. It's a bit slippery out there and he doesn't get the traction that Addy can get. And is there anywhere else on this lap that Morgan can attack for second?
Yeah, that's going to be the tough thing. He's not in the right spot to be able to pound coming to the Gardner turn. I think Addy's got this second as long as he doesn't hit the grass.
A lot of fights to play out on this final lap. Maybe not for the lead, but for every position behind. And second and third, it's Addy and Morgan. We saw some almost photo finishes to the line in race number 1. Ragnar Wisloff not going to need that kind of precision because he is head and shoulders the winner for race number 2, taking those points to be equal championship leader after round 1. Addy and Morgan finish second and third. Behind them, Bystrom will still hold off Ulf Olsen, and Shoemake holding off Barry Hills, who wanted to have a charge at him. It's Penske versus Haas almost here between Holstrom and Mike Grandy. Grandy is super close, looking to carry all the speed possible through the final corner. He'll have to pull out of the slipstream too early, and Holstrom will hold on to that spot.
Really well done race, to say the very least. Wisloff dominating the race after Fitterer popped the motor. An unreal end to this race, but Wisloff a great recovery in race 2 from the disastrous incident in race 1.
I was trying to catch any of that radio from Fitterer about what he thought happened to his engine, because such a rare problem for anyone to have in these cars without damage, visible external damage. You've got a sort of almost computer controlled sequential paddle gearbox, and that makes it difficult to over rev or damage the engine, and it was in a weird place too. Not something we're used to seeing, and it's shaped the results, where Wisloff unchallenged in the second half for the win. Addy and Morgan close in second and third as they get back-to-back podiums. Gary Bystrom, Ulf Olsen, Randy Shoemake, Barry Hills, Franz Josef Stum, Bruce Poole and Bob Kernow top 10. Great result there for Franz Josef Stum, who went +5 positions from his qualifying for his best result. And Eugene Clark in 11th from Fitterer, who, well, they changed that engine super quickly. That's why he wanted to bring it around under what power was left into pit lane. So he's still got 12th from Holstrom, Grandy, Valley, Gerhardus Jorrison, Oyvind Anderson, Douglas Beasley, Joel Martin, still on the lead lap despite his adventure in the infields, and yeah, Robert Love First car off the lead lap in the 20th place. So we had Jerry Kerr, David Bradley, Remigio De Pasqua, Gianni Rispaldo, Pierre Zionne, Gene Moore, Mike McCormick, Marcellus Broining, Bill Smitham, and Earl Setzer, our whole field. Justin, we can speak to our drivers once again. 2 of them are back from the podium of race number 1. But a man we didn't speak to after race 1 is the defending champion, and you needed that one in race number 2, Ragnar.
Yes, David. Yes. Good afternoon. Good evening to you. It was good. It was certainly intense there for quite a while. And then Donald must have been a little bit too aggressive on his downshifting, because suddenly he was gone and I just saw this pulsating smoke.
Yeah, a weird one that we are totally not used to seeing from these cars, is it?
No, I've never seen that before. So I was wondering, I mean, sometimes if you crash or, if you go backwards into a wall, then you could see it. But, just driving, I've never seen that. But so tough luck on Donald.
Yeah, let you off the hook a little bit. What's your mindset then going into this second race after not really bagging the result the pace deserved in race 1?
Well, just, go as quickly as you can. I mean, it doesn't change anything. So, I was hoping that Donald might be a little bit more careful in the second race when we saw the result in the first. So, but I mean, he made a mistake in the first race. This happens to all of us. It's half a car length too late on the brakes, and these things happen. We're so close. There's absolutely no margin for error. So I was just thinking, okay, he'll probably be a little bit more careful this time. So, but we were going very close. I was pulling out a little bit on him in the twisty sections, and then he would catch it right back up. So turn 1, as we braked, he was right on my tail, and then we do the dance again. Off and on and off and on.
3 championships apiece between yourself and Russ Addy, 1 win apiece as we start this season. Can I have your permission to call it a rivalry?
Yeah, friendly rivalry.
That's the best kind.
Yeah, and I had a 1X, and that was for running wide in turn 3, and that's an old Viking trick, a dirty trick to throw sand in the face of your opponent. But I won't do that to Russ. I saved that for Donald.
One really quick aside here. One of my neighbours has got a new yacht. It's a Horizon Yachts RP97, 97 foot of baby they've got.
Okay. Well, you keep talking about my boat as a yacht, but it makes me sound like a Russian oligarch. But it's a very humble 35-foot sailboat. It's calling it a yacht is maybe a slight exaggeration.
Yeah, you don't have a davit crane and a jacuzzi and 3 jet skis on the back. It doesn't sound like you've got room for that. But, well, congratulations on the win here, Ragnar. Keeps the championship battle on the burner between yourself and Addy, and starts off your title defense well.
Yes, it'll be an interesting season again. So I'm looking forward to many close battles as we just had today, and it'll be good fun.
Awesome. Look forward to checking in with you guys again later in the championship.
Thanks, David.
Well, defending champion grabs a win, and I think I spoke with him after race number 1. So, Justin, how about you find something new to tell Russ Addy?
Yes.
Hey, guys. Hello again.
Hello again. Second spot on the podium this race. Lost a fair bit of time after the below motor for Fitter. Talk us through the perspective where you're trying to close up to the leaders and then a smoke grenade goes off.
It's really difficult because even with, you got a button program to clean your visor, but you can only push it so often while you're driving. Yeah, it was difficult. And then I think there was a back marker in there too that couldn't see. So that, you had to just slow down.
How would you describe the feeling of the races here today in general, a first and a second for the start of the round?
Oh yeah, it's a great way to start. Although Ragnar and I mean there's literally 10 guys, the top 10 in both his races that could win. You know, it's just a little mistake here and there, and that's why it's so great running with this group.
Well, the next race for the series schedule, it's worth noting, is Road America. Pit stops required for a 15-lapper on December the 21st. Your thoughts on going to Road America?
I like Road America. I like the pit stop races. That throws a little bit of chaos or a little bit of strategy into the races. So that's fun. I like that they've added that.
Well, congratulations on a very strong opening round of the campaign. Really good point situation after the first round.
Yep. Well, thank you guys, and I want to thank the whole league here. It's just so much fun.
That's Russ Addy coming away in second spot tonight. Able to come up in the second position over John Morgan. Those two finished in order the previous race. This time, John gets to talk to David.
John, you gave it a good crack right at the end there.
Yeah, tried. Russ and I have raced enough against each other that we have a lot of respect for each other. So I tried to make some different passes coming out of one, and then the last lap I didn't try enough times to go around the outside, so it was a little bit unknown and kind of messed it up. But it was a lot of fun. Great race with Russ.
You've been a long time competitor in this championship. There's a lot of familiar names back this season, one or two new names. I mean, 60 plus Racing Adventures is going to have quite the shelf life, it seems. We just keep going and growing. What would you say to anyone watching who's thinking about joining? Because I've been looking at the YouTube comments and there's a couple out there.
Yeah, I think it's the thing is just give it a try, because I think you'll find that the atmosphere is very friendly. You know, pretty much every time somebody comes into a practice session, they'll say hello, and there's all kinds of guys who are willing to help, with learning, sort of driving techniques or the proper line around the racetrack. And we have a lot of practice sessions that are restricted to league members, so you can just sort of jump in and, go around at your own pace, ask for help or not. But I think it's the camaraderie as much as the racing at the front is, and I think all the way through the pack is just exceptional.
Far too early to ask if another Super 70s championship is on the cards, but best of luck to you with the races to come and this season.
Thank you very much. See you guys.
Well, there we go. Our podium from race number 2. John Morgan in third, Russ Addy in second. Ragnar Wisloff comes away with the win in race number 2. Sets up the rest of this season. Road America, Alton Park, Road Atlanta, then one of the oval rounds that keep this championship a little interesting and help it follow the iRacing official championship with Phoenix. And then Rudskogen. Very excited to be broadcasting that one. Ragnar Wisloff's home circuit, and he went well there last season. Spa-Francorchamps, Long Beach, Barber, Okayama, Gateway Oval, and then the championship. March 1st, round 12 from the Watkins Glen Boot. That's all from round 1 here on RaceSpotTV. I've been David Haynes, Justin Prince with me, Hugo Louise producing. Thanks for joining us for 60 Plus Racing Adventures.